to the Deputy Prime Minister of our beloved country, Brother Elvin Nimrod, to my sister and Minister of Health and Parliamentary Representative for St. Mark's, Mr. Clarice Modest, to my brother Peter, the former Foreign Minister of our country, and now the newest member of the new National Party. Our two distinguished ambassadors, Dennis Antoine and Derek James, and all the persons who did the presentation today. I want to welcome all of you. And I just want to recognize a very good friend, almost a family friend, Judge Radix and her husband, and I think her family. She happens to have been a very close friend. She's also a godmother of my only son. So we recognize a distinguished member of the Supreme Court of the State of New York here this evening. And to the distinguished members of the diplomatic community, all of you here, friends, brothers and sisters all, of course, this is indeed a very special occasion. I want to tell you why we're here at this time. It's been almost 16 months since the new government was elected. And we have had a big task of attempting to put the country on fiscal stability and economic growth. That, of course, has prevented us from doing a lot of travel. But we also know the importance of the diaspora community. And therefore, we decided before the summer breaks, in any true sense, that we must do this and make the sacrifice. We felt we have to come here and bring you up to date as to what's taking place in our country. And I'm sure you got a lot of food for thought already. We also want to make sure that you understand that our government appreciates the commitment of our diaspora community, and that we want to see more and more of that correlation between those of you who are abroad in several cities and, of course, our country citizens at home. And this trip we can't stay too long, so therefore we decided 3 areas to cover. It's going to be New York, Montreal, Toronto, and later in the summer we'll take on Miami, Washington, and of course we can't forget lots of our citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. So friends, at the end of this, I really want you to take this opportunity to give us feedback. One thing I value, and we value, is the comments, suggestions, and even criticism of our people. Because we believe that if you genuinely care, you are not to be afraid of any criticism from the citizens whom you serve. In other words, even when a question may not be appropriate, it is still good to be asked, because it gives us a chance to deal with the appropriate question in the appropriate way. My dear sisters and brothers, we firmly believe in the issue of Project Grenada. We firmly believe that. And as one of our colleagues on the platform said today, we are not only talking the talk, but we are going to walk the talk. Sisters and brothers, it is said that sometimes the best way you get to appreciate issues that are confronting you in any situation, whether it's business, sports, and particularly in the case of politics, is sometimes to step back and look in from outside. I really believe that. In fact, I advise some of my colleagues, don't fight to win elections too often. Take a chance to step out and look in. Because I had valuable experience sitting in opposition and watching our country from outside government. My dear sisters and brothers, therefore, when the election came in 2013, and the results was clearly a massive one, we expected the results to be strong, but it was even stronger than our expectation. And therefore it was easy, friends, for us to knock our chests and to say that is our time. It was easy for us to become arrogant. But I'm always reminded, sisters and brothers, that power is only appropriate when those who have it know how to use it discretionately. Remember that, sisters and brothers. I'm not only talking politics. Any area of responsibility. If you have power and you do not use it appropriately, you are doing more damage than good to that institution. And therefore, on the night of the election, when the results came in, and as Peter already pointed out, the campaign and how much the message was consistent about bringing all forces together, as an experience that I will never be able to forget. As I stood on the stage, there were thousands of people in that audience. I've never seen a crowd like this in Grenada, and that was spontaneous. And in front of the stage, there were hundreds of young people, boys and girls. And they were like right there in front of me. And their faces was stuck, and eyes stuck on me. And it was then, sisters and brothers, I said to myself, Lord, what trouble you put me in there? It was clear that they were saying to me something like, Papa, save me. That's what I saw. What came upon me then, sisters and brothers, was I can't do this by myself. I cannot do this with just those who are elected with me on the stage then. So I said, I remember I had a lot of fights with the trade union movement leadership in the period 95 to 2008. Even with the business community, with the NGOs, and with even the churches. And I said to myself, for us to succeed in changing what is happening to our country and bringing hope to those young people and to the country as a whole, we need everybody on board with Project Grenada. Everybody. And I said, if you don't have the trade union at least understanding their responsibility and working with government, we cannot succeed. It was then I called spontaneously, sisters and brothers. It was not part of my speech. Spontaneously, I called on Brother Chester Humphrey and Sister Madonna Harford, who was then and still is the president of the Trade Union Council, and said, join me in Project Grenada. Join me in bringing hope to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and P.T. Martinique. And since then, sisters and brothers, we have met together every month. This is the first month We will not be meeting because I'm traveling at the end of the month, as I did. We meet together as leaders of the trade union movement, leaders of the business community, leaders of the non-governmental community, and the leadership of the churches in the country, and the government, in a meeting chaired by myself as Prime Minister, and I have not missed one meeting so far when I'm in the country, to discuss the present situation, to share ideas, to even agree to disagree, but fundamentally to plan for Project Grenada, to plan to develop Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. I am proud, sisters and brothers, as I travel around the region, and up to recently coming from a major meeting in Mexico, where many of my colleagues, prime ministers, Jamaica, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, and I was coming back in a private plane, and some of my colleagues said to me, I don't know how you're doing it, but what you're doing in Grenada, we hope and want to do the same thing, to have that consultative process of engagement between all parties in our country. That, sisters and brothers, is selling beautifully around the region and around the world. That the government recognizes that the only way to go forward is to bring all the players together on Project That Country. So we have to do that, sisters and brothers. We have to take that to the Caribbean region. We cannot continue with little Grenada by itself. We cannot continue with little St. Vincent by itself. We cannot continue with all the problems that exist by going on our own, sisters and brothers. Even the platform of information and communication technology, if we use that platform and we come up with one serious program for use of that platform to develop the region, it can place the Caribbean region in serious competition on the global market. I have no doubt in my mind. So we're not talking just Project Grenada. It has to also be Project Caribbean, sisters and brothers. But we have to settle our act in Grenada first and foremost. My sisters and brothers, what is the state of your country? We must tell you. Sister Clarice and others gave you some of the things that were happening when we came into government. It is not no secret, and I don't want to spend time because we have not done so. Because I think it's important. I think we politicians make a lot of mistakes because we believe in ourselves too much and we forget the people are the ones that put us there. When an election is over, it's not about us, it's about the people. We have to always get it right. And sometimes we spend all our time vilifying our opponent, as weak as they may be, or as incorrect that they may have been in government. Spending all your energies and attacking them will not solve the problem confronting you and the country. Let's get it right. I believe one of the reasons that Peter Davis is on the platform here today is because of something I know happened very early. I remember after the election in 2008, the energies of the government were all spent on Keith Mitchell. I'd never forget that. They have to jail Keith Mitchell, they have to do him all kinds of stuff. So I say, wait, no, you jail Keith Mitchell and you still have the problem. So I remember going to Parliament one day, and Peter would remember this. And I said to them after about 3 or 4 months, I said, you know, during the election they used to call me Jonah. Peter and them used to call me Jonah. So Jonah get up in Parliament, and Jonah said to the Prime Minister and his team on the other side, all spending all your time trying to jail Keith Mitchell. You spend all your time vilifying me. Remember, you are voted there to improve the lives of the people. But I could tell you this, you will not succeed. But more than that, within a year and a half, when the people cannot see an improvement in their lives, they will come next to the wheel. Jonah, wake up. We're ready for you. Peter, remember that, right? Peter, remember that. I had the whole parliament laughing. But that was a serious statement. And I'm telling you what, I think Peter understood this. And because he was a voice for saying, let us get on with the work of the government. Let us build the lives of the people. Forget Keith Mitchell. He's now in opposition. We succeed in getting rid of him politically in government. Our task now is to build the country. For that, I believe he endured the wrath of the Prime Minister. In my view, he was very simple-minded and one-dimensional, together with his chief supporter, who then the Minister of Finance, whose only role in government seemed to be just to attack and vilify people, not to do benefits and bring benefits to the people of the country. I am telling you, therefore, the NNP is the beneficiary of Peter's work, experience, and ability because of the type of politics that was practiced within the National Democratic Congress. So we welcome Peter on board. For one thing, sisters and brothers, I've said over and over, I am not in this that Peter just joined NNP or Peter joined Keith Mitchell. This is not the issue, you know. As far as I'm concerned, Peter has decided to join the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So if the NNP and Keith Mitchell and others are not doing what they're supposed to do, he has a right to take it alternatively, because it's not about us. It's about Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We must constantly keep our eyes on the prize. And that prize is Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Too much time we stick on personalities, who we like and we don't like. Something is right today because John did it, but it's wrong tomorrow because Lucy is doing the same thing. It is not so, sisters and brothers. Wrong is wrong. Right is always right, regardless of the personalities in charge of that. We must get it right, sisters and brothers. So even in our own public service, I've said over and over to them, too many times I see decisions made on the basis of who the person is and not on the principle. So someone is promoted because they're a friend of either a politician or somebody up in the system. But another person working the tail off will not get promotion because he's not a friend of that person or the politician. I say, if it's one thing we will do for our country in the time that we serve, we must lift the bar. We must lift the bar. Sisters and brothers, that is why I've said, and I want all my supporters to understand this. When I'm talking about this, it's deep inside of me. It is not a game for me. If I have to be out of government for it, I would be a happy man. When we decided that Derek must remain as Consul General, it had nothing to do with just Derek. It had nothing to do with Peter David, as some people say. My dear sisters and brothers, the word came back from most people in the diaspora, including NNP supporters, that if you're preaching unity, if you're preaching coming together of the forces, and you remove Derek, you'll be sending a wrong message for Project Grenada and the development of this beautiful country. Because I didn't know much about Derek. So it's not about personalities, my dear sisters and brothers. It is not about personalities. It's about our country. And that's why I call on all NNP supporters, put the label on the past behind. Our party is a vehicle for the development of our country. It is not just a symbol for just association between friends or family. It's about a country. And we cannot, sisters and brothers, and I cannot follow. If those of us that cannot understand the message, we must get it right. Believe it, Keith Mitchell cannot change and will not change on that particular matter. I would prefer to get out of politics before I participate in the politics of more spite and hate. I've watched it divide our country. I've seen how we have lost so much. I realized recently, and Peter was there, in St. George's Northeast, a Northwest constituency, which is part of my constituency in New Hampshire. A gentleman got up and started talking about how the politicians making so much money and the taxing people and blah, blah, blah. And I listened to the brother. I say, you know something? And I turned to Peter, I say, you know, we are guilty of this. We are part of the reason for the way people see politicians. We have been vilifying each other sufficiently. And I said to them, just look around in the history of Grenada. Just look around. All the attacks we have labeled the political opponents of being corrupt and being thieves and so on. Look and see how many prosperous former politicians that are in Grenada today. Some in their grave, but they died as paupers. And we sometimes used to call them thieves. My sisters and brothers, if we don't stop that, our children and grandchildren will not respect us and will be hurting our country more and more. I am not going to participate in this, and I want it to be loud and clear. Particularly in this period of my opportunity I get, I feel I am here for a particular reason, to right the wrongs of the past and move this country on one path of development for our beautiful people. So sisters and brothers, we inherited a mess, and I'm not going to go through all of it. Sister Clarice gave you some of it. I go to the OECS meeting and they show me a book, Grenada, the most bad pay. Grenada ain't pay. Grenada chaired the OECS Prime Ministerial Committee, and while Grenada chairing, Grenada ain't pay. I say, what? So I asked one of the Prime Minister, tell me something. When we owe this money, Tillman used to come to the meeting. They tell me yes. I say, well, what you used to say? They say, just sit there. I like Tilly for that, you know, just sit there. So he leave everything for me, because I ask him, I can't owe you and go and sit down in your house. I will feel bad. Either I stay away or bring in some money with me. So, but that's what the Caribbean Development Bank was downgraded twice. Those of you in the Caribbean know the importance of the Caribbean Development Bank, because they access loans from the international community and unlend to governments. So the higher the rating of the bank is, the cheaper the loans to the individual countries. So when they got downgraded twice because of Grenada, it means that we cost the borrowing member countries in the Caribbean millions and hundreds and scores of millions of dollars, because they now have to borrow at much higher rates. So when I came into government, the first week I left for a meeting in Barbados just for one evening, and the chairman of the Caribbean Development Bank said he just wanted to have lunch with me. Poor me, I think his lunch man wanted to have with me. So I go make myself ready for lunch. lunch, I nearly didn't eat lunch at all. Nearly had other things than lunch. He showed me the thing, and he said, look, next week, if you don't pay the $5.8 million to the bank, they're going to downgrade us a third time. Could you imagine? I have not even gone to the Ministry of Finance yet to find out if there's a cent. But that is what I was confronted with. I called the PS and I said, Lord have mercy, we can't allow the bank to be downgraded again. So I say, call my friends. We had no money. So we called my good friend Pamela Bassessa and said, look, Pamela, you have to help me, because Jamaica will get hurt, Guyana will get hurt, St. Vincent will get hurt because of Grenada again. And she helped us, so we were able to pay that and pay a number of countries. So that's why I would always remember our sisters and brothers in Trinidad and Tobago, because they saved us, and that's what Caribbean unity is all about, sisters and brothers. So we had a fiscal problem. Every month, the government was earning a certain amount for the country to do all work in the country. But the deficit between what we earned and what we pay out every month was $18 million. Try to run a business and every month is a deficit. See how long you'll be in business. So there's no way we could have continued with this. Worse than that, we are not able to service our debts. As I mentioned, I could give you all the debts that we owe and we couldn't pay. The debt of the country was over $1.8 billion. So we had that to contend with. And we're not even generating enough money to even pay salaries, more so to meet our commitments to health. And no wonder you had no medication at the hospital, and the problems were just mounting all over the place. So when I looked at it, the situation, I said, look, we can't continue like this. The first thing we had to do, I spoke to my friends regionally and internationally. Friendly governments, the American government, British, Canadian government, European Union, Caribbean governments, and I said, look, we will announce that we are going to not be able to pay our debts for a little while. In other words, we have to formally announce we have defaulted. We have to, that's a tough decision to take, because it means the entire world know that you're bad pay. But in the face of what we had, we could not duck the responsibility. We had to face it. But we said we will restructure the economy. We will have to make some sacrifices on our own. We appeal to our international friends and community to help us. And we sought immediately to appoint some debt advisors to look at getting serious haircut on our debt. That started, friends. We met with all the international institutions, and the friendly governments made meetings available for us, and we started serious negotiations. Friends, I have to spend a little time on this because you must understand what's taking place in Grenada now. So they said, look, Prime Minister, you're asking us for help. We're asking us to go to the bondholders and ask them for serious haircut. You're asking us to give you serious cash injection in the country. We want to ask you what you bring into the table. What are you asking your own Grenadian people to do? I said, well, I'm sure they'll be prepared to make some sacrifices. Then we started negotiations. And clearly they said, look, in America, we're taxing them state, city, federal. When you buy something, more tax again. Everything, tax. Europe is even worse. That's what they're telling me. But look, we see in your country, a man has to make $60,000 before he pay a cent. And now you're asking us to give you cash from the same people who pay taxes in our country at the rate we're charging them. Well, we won't be able if you can't get your people to drop the rate so that more people get into the tax bracket. So we had to sell this. One of the toughest decisions, sisters and brothers, in a time of economic depression, to ask, it doesn't matter who, to pay more taxes. That is not the right policy. And philosophically, it's fundamentally against my stomach. We had to do a number of other things to raise property tax at the same time. Again, my stomach hurts. We had to move and increase the custom service charge on certain goods, except basic items. Again, that is more pressure in the country. We had to take a number of other decisions, sisters and brothers, that affect the lives of the people of the country. Tough. But we decided at the cabinet level, if we don't do it, we get in no money, we cannot get any debt relief, and therefore we have more and more problem. And the economy, which was negative growth for 4 years and a half, the economy was negative. In other words, serious depression. We couldn't continue like this. No investor was coming to Grenada. The then Minister of Finance, no one had a good word to say about him. He's like anti-business, anti-people, anti-everything, sisters and brothers. So they said, look, we have to, if you're ready to do this and to make some sacrifice and ask your people, we're ready to bat for you. I'm ready to bat with you. Sisters and brothers, before saying a little more on the taxes, let me say this. They agreed that the international institution will give us $100 million in a 3-year structural adjustment program in cash. So 100 million this year, EC, 100 next year, and 100 in 2017. For 14, 15, 16, sorry. 14, 15, 16. In addition to that, if you do your part, we are going to put enormous support behind the government on the bondholders and those we owe to give us a haircut, so that Grenada not only will be able to have the cash to be able to invest in economic activity, but we'll be able to get tremendous relief on the debt. Sisters and brothers, in the face of this, I had to talk to my cabinet and the people of the country. I addressed the nation and I told them, as tough as it is, and I don't expect them to be happy. I don't expect when I pass around people waving me and praising me. I expect a few people, like sometimes when I pass, I see some cross eyes, and that is expected. But sisters and brothers, let me say this about life. If you are a leader in anything, and you're trying to please everybody in everything you do, you ain't gonna please nobody. Let's get it right. And my sister and my brother here may say to my cabinet colleagues, if some of you are too popular, no, something wrong. That means you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. Because a popularity contest is not necessarily what is right today. We have to take tough, unpopular decision to get this country going. Because I'm convinced, sisters and brothers, the same people that curse you today, and they may have the right because they might be hurting, when the things turn around and the country move forward, the same people will praise you tomorrow. I always tell people this. One of the worst periods in my political life was in 1986, when we were left with infrastructure. We had no crusher, and I had to import some stone from St. Vincent. Do you remember that? All you remember that? And my opponents say, well, I'm dead. Everywhere I go, they call me Stone. Every place I go, I get in cussing Stone, Stone, Stone. I remember going home one day after a whole day of being called Stone every place I go. My son was just 7 years. As soon as I reach in the house, Stone. I say, not from you. I'm not taking it from you. He never called me Stone again. But sisters and brothers, the point I really want to make is after the roads get built and the infrastructure start getting in place, the same people that criticized me and say I was dead politically started praising me. 2 years later, I got them at Christmas time. The end of the day, they called me Man of the Year. But you know what happened? Before that, I say, you know something, when somebody trying to call you a nickname, you take on a nickname yourself and start calling yourself a nickname. So I played an old mass. I put a lot of stone all over my body. Stone in front here, stone all over the place. And I win all mass competition that year. And I had a good band of supporters. I'm making the point, sisters and brothers, sometimes you have to take the right decision. So the point I want to make here is this. A lot of time you hear the argument about what we're getting from the homegrown program that we're implementing, the sacrifices that we're asking people to make. And as I said to you, it's tough. But it's temporary, sisters and brothers, very temporary. Listen what the pluses are, besides the cash. Right now, our debt is about $1.8 billion. The bondholders' amount is about $1 billion. Now, if, as it looks likely, that we will get at least 50% haircut, and I'm telling you, a few cases already, the bondholders are coming and agreeing to give us more than that. But let's assume we get at least 50%. It means the debt, the monies that we will get off our debt will be almost $400 to $500 million. Sisters and brothers, tell me something, that does not worth serious sacrifice on the part of every one of us? If we don't do what they believe that we should do, and we have to pay this debt, and they will not give us the 100 million US, which works out almost 300 million EC, 100 each a year. If we do not get this, tell me, where are we going to go? I ask all our friends in front of social partners, give me an alternative. I don't want to do what we are asking to do, but tell me what else I must do. Listen, the former Minister of Finance, oh, killing the country, oh, wicked, and how told the people will deliver. Now the child dead in childbirth. This is the man that supervised over the country's fiscal demise, that agreed at the end of every month was selling Grenada's national asset to pay salaries. Would you imagine that? He's selling asset to pay salaries. There was no economic activity. But today, he's the only dissenting voice, together with those who follow him in the National Democratic Congress, that's saying that we should not make the sacrifices. In other words, we should not accept the 300 million EC, and we should not accept the 50% haircut at least. Sisters and brothers, I call that very unpatriotic and selfish. Sisters and brothers, there can be no other word to describe it. So my dear sisters and brothers in the diaspora, we are asking every citizen to make a contribution. So we say, and that's we saying for 3 years, and if the economy turns around and become robust, we are not going to keep some of those taxes. We don't have to. That's the understanding we have with the international community. Assuming that the economy takes off and we start generating serious surplus on the recurrent side of our budget. Sisters and brothers, we are saying, therefore, if we asking the citizens in the country to make a sacrifice, those of us in the diaspora should come forward to the plate. So we are saying all the conditions that applied to people coming back home remain the same, except for one area, and that's for 3 years. The vehicle that you get 100% from, we say it's now 50%. Only the vehicle, nothing more. The same amount that you're allowed to come in duty-free in all other areas, stand. My sisters and brothers, as I stand here to you tonight, I am not gloating. I am not happy that I have to announce this, but I have to tell you the truth. And I'm not going to stand there and leave here tonight and not say that to you and you hear it other places. So I hope you are not mad with me. But this is for Project Grenada. This is for Grenada, Carriacou, and P.T. Martinique. My friends, therefore, we are asking all these sacrifices. We are making sure that in the process, look at the benefits in addition. For the first time, 2013, Grenada recorded a positive growth in the economy of the country after almost 4.5 years of negative growth. 2013, we had the highest growth rate in the Eastern Caribbean, coming from where we came from in the last period, 2008 to 2013. That's a big plus. The Ministry of Finance Division, Economic Division, already have said they are now expecting further positive growth based on the numbers we've seen already for the first quarter of the year. And the big projects have not yet started, sisters and brothers. There are at least 3 hotels are now being designed, the land obtained already, and ready to move not long from now. We have several marina projects who were ready, in fact, some are on the ground already, like the one in Carriacou and Petit Martinique that was stopped by the politics of spite and hate, and now back on stream to provide hundreds of jobs and economic activity in the sister island of Carriacou. It means not only Carriacouians will get jobs and Petit Martiniquans, but from the mainland, a lot of people will go to Carriacou for jobs. My sisters and brothers, in addition, look at this. We are embarking on a major plan for a new teaching hospital. St. George's University is identified as a premier offshore medical school, one of the best in the world. That's a fact. I remember when I became head of government in '95, and I mentioned St. George's University, the heads, my colleague prime minister wanted to kill me. Today, many of the citizens from the other islands are going to St. George's University to become doctors and to get a serious education because of the stature of that institution. If St. George's University leave us today, we lose at least 15% of our GDP. That's how important that institution is. So now we are agreeing with them and some investors from America here and Europe to set up St. George's University as a base, as a first-class, establish a new hospital, a first-class teaching hospital, with all the major services intact, that can sell Grenada as a serious place of health tourism, where people will come to Grenada with the level of medical care they can get in the country, with the level of the doctors that are available for the St. George University and for Grenada, to get all the type of operations they need in that hospital, and to recuperate in the spice country of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The benefits are going to be enormous. No longer with the Grenadians living in New York, retiring and concerned about his health will say, I cannot go home, I'm going to Florida. I want them to say they're coming back to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So we're giving a lot of priority, and the Chinese government, we're working with them to help us in the financing aspect of that facility. So the St. George's University on board, the investors internationally on board, and the financial institution in Washington, there's the private sector arm, will also be involved. They have held several discussions with us in opposition and in government. In fact, in opposition, I said I support the plan, but I do not believe Grenada has the money to finance our hospital by itself. So I told them that if we are able to get partners on board, business partners involved, St. George's University play their part, and the international community, I'm prepared to go. Now we have most of that in place. We are ready to go, sisters and brothers. Grenada will provide first-class medical facility in the Caribbean, sisters and brothers. Look at the National Health Insurance Scheme. We asked Brother Chester Humphrey if he would agree to continue chairing that committee. And we told them no holds must be barred. We must bring that plan. Because right now, as Sister Clara said, those of us who can afford to pay are not paying appropriately. We're getting free service. Some of us have insurance, but insurance getting away with murder because the government taking what the insurance should be paying. And at the same time, we expect the poor man who has no money at all to pay for the x-ray at the same price that I have to pay. That's not fair. His life is as important as mine. So we have to subsidize or give him free medical care to make sure that we see it as a fundamental human right, the right to better health care, sisters and brothers. We know the problem in the United States, health care. I cannot help but saying, I think that's a fundamental principle. I cannot see how anyone, without getting involved in American and domestic politics, anyone could oppose a plan to broaden healthcare to all and sundry, so that everybody's life will be given importance it deserves. Sisters and brothers, as I wind up, let me say this, because I really want you to have all the opportunity to ask the questions you want to ask. And I spent half an hour already. This Project Grenada requires absolute unity. My friends, there are people who support the NDC and still support them, who are capable of making a contribution to the development of the country. I say we want them, count them in, sisters and brothers. We cannot say because they didn't vote for us, we don't want them around. In fact, I have to call, constantly talking to some of our supporters. Somebody comes to a political meeting, you see them come. They come to your meeting. They are appearing to support. You turn in and ask them, what are you doing here? We have to stop that. They have a right there. This is the Grenada. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. They don't have to like me. I always tell people, if you don't like it, Michelle, don't like him. I have enough people that like me, like Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And that is what my objective is, and that is what Peter and others are now doing, sisters and brothers. Some will get on with all sorts of foolishness, because when you're doing something right, don't expect that all will say, yeah. That's something, if you expect that, don't go in anything. So I'm supportive of this whole concept of national unity, because I firmly believe that is the way to go. When election time comes, people divide on political lines, and you preach your politics, and those who get into office, and we unite again, building the Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. That is what it has to be, sisters and brothers. And Peter already said it, you don't have to be a member of NNP or NDC to make a contribution to your country. Healthcare needs you in Grenada. You could make a contribution, send something home to help to save a life in Grenada. One life is too much to lose, sisters and brothers. So I'm happy, I'm proud of the opportunity God has given me. An opportunity to get out of politics. I consider it getting out on a high, so to speak. I believe my legacy is at stake. That's why I'm not joking about this. I don't want to leave politics. At the time, people can say, I was a champion of dividing the people of the country and being a leader in partisanship. I want it to be said at the end of my period of service that I did the best that I could have done to unite the people of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And I want to assure you, I will not do what some of our leaders have done in the past. Wait until they can't walk. Wait until they cannot do anything serious and still holding on to leadership of their party. I am proud, sisters and brothers. I am proud to tell you, sisters and brothers, that I have a team of men and women in the new National Party who I am convinced can take this country forward under a serious banner of national unity, building Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And I want to be there, sisters and brothers, at the end of my service, to sit back home and relax and watch the NNP and Grenada and Project Grenada go from strength to strength. That is my dream. And therefore, I have no qualms when that time comes. And it's not going to be very, very long. But I'm telling you this. No, I would not do it just like this. Because I told you, things are going to be in place. That is my objective. I have seen good leaders leave the party. And when they're ready to leave, they impose a leader on the party. And it never works. I ain't imposing nobody on the country. The leader must evolve through the people, through the political process. That makes sense, because that is what will survive the test of times. Because one thing we must know about our people, we politicians must always remember, the people are always right. Sometimes when we lose, we say them people wicked. People never wicked. Sometimes we believe that we're better than them. And when they go behind the ballot box, they teach us some lessons. They taught me lessons in 2008 and I accepted it. They taught me lessons in 1990 and I accepted it. Some people have been taught a lesson in 2013 and they ain't accepted it yet. They even calling on me to resign already. So, sisters and brothers, finally, let me make the point. Your responsibility, my responsibility, to save our children and our grandchildren. It worries me when I see what's happening to education home and the state of our young people. I know what it is to want an education and you have the money to get it. I've seen a lot of young people yearning for opportunities and we have not been able to provide it. Sisters and brothers, whatever you can do in your own little way, remember your sisters and brothers home need your help. You don't have to do it through a political organization, but do it, you know what? You do it for God and country. As I've always said, put God first, country second, and everything else after that. Sisters and brothers, work for your people. Work for unity. Work for Project Grenada. Let us build together and let us save Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martin. Thank you.